consequences of skipping an attic inspection? What's the worst that can happen? How about a roofing contractor paying for a brand new roof out of pocket? Hi there, welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Airing It Out with AirVent. My name is Paul Schelsey. I host AirVent's in-person attic ventilation Ask the Expert seminars offered every winter to roofing professionals all across North America since 1998. Today, we're going to focus on the importance of doing an attic inspection when it's safe and practical to get inside an attic anytime a roofing contractor is doing an estimate to replace a roof and evaluate the current attic ventilation. Our guest today is Patrick Redioff, owner of Pond Roofing in Fairfax, Virginia. Patrick has been very generous to allow me to share his company's story in our seminars. All across North America, I've been sharing his costly lesson learned of what could happen when an attic inspection is skipped. Up until this point, I've explained Patrick's story myself. Today, we have the good fortune to hear it directly from Patrick himself. I'm very thankful for this opportunity. Welcome to the show, Patrick, and it's a pleasure to have you.
It's my pleasure, Paul. I always enjoy our conversations.
Me too. Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm excited about this episode. To be clear, Pond Roofing normally does attic inspections. I've known Patrick for many years now. He has shared his knowledge in best practices articles we've written for industry magazines. I visited his shop in Fairfax as part of a field study AirVent was conducting at the time, and he's always willing to share tips. He's also willing to share mistakes. Patrick, let me say right now that the audiences who hear me tell your story are impressed with your honesty and your permission to share your story. Not everyone wants to broadcast their mistakes, and yet here we are on a podcast continuing to share your story. So thank you for that, Patrick.
Yeah, sure, Paul. And I'm passionate about this industry. I consider myself some sort of a leader in the industry. So I'm all about teaching people, helping them learn from my lessons learned hard in the field. I mean, it just raises the whole industry. So that's what I'm about.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's set the table for our audience about the project. And then I'd like you, Patrick, to share some specifics and behind the scenes details as we go.
Sure.
So I'll set the table for the listener. Pond Roofing is hired to install a new roof. Mm-hmm. For intake ventilation, there is perforated vinyl soffit in place.
Right.
For exhaust, there are two gable louvers, one on each end of the house. That's the attic ventilation in place, perforated vinyl soffit and gable end louvers.
Right.
Pond Roofing recommended, instead of continuing to use the gable louvers for exhaust, let's install a roof mount power fan with a thermostat, humidistat to fight heat and moisture year-round. That's the recommendation to the homeowner. We'll remove the gable louvers and install a roof mount power fan.
And it was an AirVent Model 12.
Oh, thank you for that. All right, awesome. Model 12 is that 1170 CFM? I believe it's 1170 CFM.
Yeah.
So Pond Roofing blocks off the gable louvers from the house exterior on each end of the house to avoid short-circuiting the attic ventilation system. For the listener's benefit, we don't recommend that you mix two different types of attic exhaust vents on the same roof above a common attic. In this case, it would have been gable louvers and a power fan because it could lead to inefficient airflow and weather infiltration. We actually discuss short-circuiting in detail in an earlier episode of the podcast. We'll move on from that now. So Pond blocks off the gable louvers. I'm going to let you, Patrick, please, if you don't mind, take over and guide the listener and me through what happens next.
Sure. So we installed the roof in warmer weather.
Yep.
And everything seemed to be great. And customer paid us and we moved on. And over the winter, we got a call because the customer was complaining that he felt like all of the heat in the upstairs of his home was being sucked up into the attic. It was freezing up there. So that's what triggered our investigation. I showed up. I went up in the attic and said, "Oh boy, we got a bigger problem." Because the plywood was soaked and it was, starting to see a little bit of, mildew stuff. It was a mess. It was soaking wet. There was actually on the rooftop side, there was water weeping out from between the shingles. There was so much moisture up there.
Wow.
So we had to do something. We're gonna do what's right. The first thing I noticed was that the insulation was pushed right up against the plywood, and so we had no airflow from these so-called perforated vinyl soffits to the roof line. So I'm the guy that discovered it. And then what went next was, hey, Mr. Customer, we missed something. Let's take this whole roof section off, and all new plywood, all new underlayments, all new shingles.
New roof.
So forth. New roof.
New roof.
Yeah.
That had to be an awakening for you, I would imagine, Patrick.
It was an awakening. What had happened was we have a process, we have a system. Okay, we do attic inspections. This customer was running behind. He let my estimator get off his game, and he rushed him. And he just didn't even let him in the house. And so there were a couple of mistakes made. One, not demanding that we do an attic inspection.
Yes.
And then also that it's a funny thing, Paul, that perforated vinyl soffit isn't all it's cracked up to be. Turns out when we went to do the new roof, those soffits behind the perforated vinyl were actually solid wood.
Wow.
So they weren't going to do anything for us anyway.
Yes.
Now, had he done his attic inspection and seen that the insulation was stuffed up against the plywood, what he would have told the customer is, hey, we need to remove the bottom row of plywood and install baffles, because we do that all the time.
Attic insulation baffles. Yes.
Installation baffles. And then what we would have had is the day of installation, our field supervisor would have been up there and said, wait a second, now that we've got this off, there's actually no perforations in this soffit. We need a new plan, which, is what we came up with in the end was, we added the rooftop mounted intake vents along the eaves, and the baffles, and then a new ridge vent.
Patrick, when I've been explaining the scenario to seminar audiences,
sure, about
the day of the estimate, and I make it clear that you're not looking for no excuses, but the homeowner did rush your estimator, and maybe rescheduling would have been the plan.
Yeah, he should have, rescheduled or said, hey, look, I can't give you this proposal until I can take a look up in there. We're making assumptions otherwise.
Correct.
And you can't let the customer run your show. You're there as an expert. They've asked you to come as an expert. You have to be able to stand up for yourself and say, hey, I'm the expert. I learned from Paul.
Well, I don't know.
I need to look for some things, and please, if we can't do it now, I'll reschedule. Let me come back another time, and we learned a valuable lesson there.
Patrick, you shared with me one of the positives that came out of this experience is the estimating software your company is now using.
Sure.
You feel comfortable sharing with our audience?
Absolutely. But there's actually two things, Paul. We have a new CRM, called Contractors Cloud, and I don't mean to plug them, but they have a customizable workflow. So when we enter a lead, there are certain steps that have to be followed to get the project from start to finish, whether it becomes a dead estimate or goes on to a sale. Either way, it can't flow through unless certain requirements are met. So one of the things we have in there is a requirement for photos of the inside of the attic. And there's I mean, you're clicking buttons, but you have to intentionally bypass that and be a cheater to get around it. So you take your attic photo, you upload it to the system, you're able to click a button to tag that photo as attic inspection, and then it allows the project to keep moving forward. You can't without doing that. So I mean, I don't have cheaters and liars in my business. I mean, if that's what you've got in your operation, then this isn't going to help you. But it causes people to stop and think and make sure that they've done all the right steps.
Right.
Yeah. And then separate from that, we do have some new estimating software where we've built templates that already include intake vents on the eaves and bridge vents and fans. It's got it all. And then you go through and you have to delete stuff rather than let me think of what I'm going to add. It's let me think of what I'm not going to use. And so it's a kind of a better fail-safe checklist.
I understand. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
Patrick, for the benefit of the listening audience, is there any final guidance specific to attic inspections you would like to share or offer to fellow roofing contractors, roofing professionals?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I know it's tough right now. We're in this pandemic, so sometimes people don't want you in their homes. You've got to figure out a way to do it. You need to have a system or process for really everything in your business, but especially for the estimating portion, and then a way to hold those estimators accountable for doing those steps and for the results of those. And you really need to make sure that you don't let the customer run your show. You've got your system. You're the professional. You've got the system. You got your process. Here's what I need to do. Set the expectations and then follow through. I mean, I can't stress it enough. It's key.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick, when the pandemic first hit, we were out doing seminars, AirVent was, and we had to cut our season short by a few weeks.
Yep.
Shortly after that, we had the idea given to us to do an attic inspection checklist that the homeowner could do if they weren't comfortable having a roofing contractor come to the attic, and maybe they've softened their concerns about that now. And it wouldn't be as thorough as a professional like Pond Roofing, but it would help relay. Then they would relay that information to the contractor. So we do have a somewhat thorough checklist on our website, airvent.com.
Sure.
It won't be thorough like a professional would do, but it would give you some working knowledge of what's up there. And so that's on the website.
I think that's great. And does it have anything in there like, does it address bathroom exhaust?
It does. I'm going by memory, and I'm going to double check. And if it does, we'll add it.
That's important, because if you get homeowners that, a checklist and have them, how many bathrooms do you have on the top floor? How many of those have bathroom exhaust fans? If they could stick their smartphone up into the attic with a light and just kind of do a 360 and give you a picture of what's up inside of there.
Yes.
I could see that, being sufficient to get a good picture of what's going on. That's something I forgot to mention, was this gentleman had no bath exhaust fans. So that was part of the reason we had so much moisture, and he wasn't ready to add them. So we put a couple of roof vents with the duct kit already, installed, and just dropped them down inside of the attic. So we could say, we've done everything we could possibly do.
Yes.
And now the rest is up to you, buddy. So, but having some way to capture that would be pretty crucial.
Yes. Thank you very much, Patrick. Patrick, that's about the summary of this episode for us.
Sure.
You've been very kind to share your lesson learned, and we appreciate your frankness always. And I want to thank you for your time. You've always been very generous with your time and your willingness to share. So thank you very much for being our first Q&A guest on Airing It Out with AirVent.
I love it, man. I appreciate the opportunity to help. I really do. I live by, I have these certain lists, right? And I've got a list of 3 things that, you can never have too much of, right? And the first one is pocket knives. You can never have too many pocket knives.
Okay.
The second is you can never have too much ketchup. And the third is you can never, ever, ever have too much Paul Chelsea. Live or die by it, bro.
Hey, you're very kind. Thank you so much, Patrick. Again, good luck to you. Stay well, stay healthy, and I want to thank you again for your time. That's going to wrap up this episode. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you'd like, and be sure to let us know if there's a topic you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Maybe you'd like to be a guest one day like Patrick was today. Drop us a note on the podcast page of our website, airvent.com. And please come back for more Airing It Out with AirVent. I'm Paul Chelsea. Thanks for listening.